A special edition of the Palace of Pistons podcast coming your way today with Motor City Cruise head coach Jamelle McMillan joining the show. We talked about a ton of things as we preview the Motor City Cruise season. We talked about the roster. They have some really interesting players. One of the best teams on paper that the Cruise have had, maybe since the franchise's origination. You look at some of the names of the two-way players, Danish Jenkins, Cole Swider, Alondis Williams. They have Lamar Stevens, who's been in the NBA for several seasons, and some other guys that I think are really, really interesting. So we talked about the roster. We talked about the training camp that the team's been going through. We talked about how he managed to stay in his position as the head coach of the Cruise, despite the franchise making changes at the front office and head coaching level at the NBA level. So a lot of good stuff in this conversation. Jamelle is a very, very well-spoken coach. He really knows the game. You can tell just by talking to him that he lives the game of basketball. And I just thought today was a really, really good conversation. I know, maybe not everybody gets a chance or is really given a chance to watch the Motor City Cruise, to watch G League basketball. And, I think this year it's a good opportunity to do so. We even mentioned it in our discussion today. You're going to have some guys down there at some point, whether it's Pistons rookie Bobby Klintman, maybe Ron Holland to get some run down there when Asar Thompson returns. And also someone like Marcus Sasser could find himself down there for a stretch as well. So you're going to see some Pistons spend some time with this Cruise team at some point this season as well. Really, really interesting conversation with Jamelle. It's something that I hope we get to do again as the season goes on and get to check in on him and the Cruise and the guys that are suiting up for them on a nightly basis. There's, obviously a chance that we'll see some of these guys like Jenkins, like Williams, like Cole Swider, get a chance to play for the Pistons at some point this year. So a really good conversation. I hope you guys check it out and let me know what you think as we continue to do some different things content-wise. The Cruise season tips off on Tuesday at Wayne State Fieldhouse. That's their home arena as they host the Chicago Bulls G League affiliate, the Windy City Bulls. So without further ado, let's get into a conversation with Cruise head coach Jamelle McMillan here on the Palace of Pistons podcast. The Palace of Pistons podcast is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selections of odds on everything from football, NBA, and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA, head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. And now, the Palace of Pistons podcast.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another exciting night of NBA basketball.
The Pistons are digging in. They got the depth. They got the big men. They got the better basketball team. No doubt about it.
Pistons need a three, and they have just under 3 seconds to do it. Here's Chauncey Billups. Here it is. He's got it. He's got it. Chauncey Billups hits the three. Overtime. Amazing.
Out of bounds. Detroit basketball.
All right, and welcome back, folks, to a special edition of the Palace of Pistons podcast. Joining me is a special guest. It's the head coach of the Detroit Pistons G League affiliate team, the Motor City Cruise, Mr. Jamelle McMillan. Jamelle, thanks for your time. Appreciate you being here. It's a really busy time for you as the season starts next week. You're in the middle of training camp. But how's everything doing? Are you getting some sleep right now, or is it a lot of sleepless nights as you get ready to tip off the season?
Yeah, sleep is scarce these days, but it's for good reason. We've got a lot of really cool parts here to put together. A new system to get acclimated to and to implement with these guys and everything. And so just moving the pieces around, that's the fun part of the job. It's a cool project to be a part of.
Well, Coach, it's your second year with the Motor City Cruise. For those that maybe haven't come out to a game yet, don't know much about the team, but are checking you out for the first time or hearing about you guys for the first time, maybe just tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, your history in the sport of basketball.
Yeah, so I am from Seattle, Washington originally, which has a pretty cool reputation for basketball players, and really tight-knit community there, which springboarded me to Arizona State, where I played and was there 4 years before I got into my coaching career, which led me to New Orleans, Louisiana first with the Hornets then, and the Pelicans for what, 7, 8 years. I went from there to Phoenix for a year, went back to New Orleans for a year, and then went to Atlanta for 2 years before being here now in Detroit. So uh, been all over the place. I grew up in the league and grew up in the NBA family just due to my father and everything, and a lot of cool mentors and all that stuff around the game of basketball. So it's provided me with a tremendous professional career as well as life and everything, with some pretty cool relationships and cool people. And so just coming here to Detroit and the way Detroit has welcomed me, the Pistons/Crews organization has really gotten behind in their support for myself and what's going on. It's just, I'm really fortunate to be a part of this, dude.
The Crews have had some guys go on to play in the NBA. They've had some really good players come down, whether they were on two-way contracts or guys that came through the G League pool, whether it was the draft or their player rights were acquired. But they've had some great names come through. You guys have a different roster compared to last season. I guess that's similar, or it's usual in the G League with all of the player movement, guys going overseas, guys earning those NBA contracts. So you only have a few returners from the last roster last year. Some of the new faces, though, are really interesting in terms of what they bring to the table. Undrafted rookie Danis Jenkins signed with the Crews and the Pistons shortly after the draft. You bring in Cole Swider, who had some really good games last year in the G League and was with the Indiana Pacers throughout training camp. Can you talk about some of these new names that if a Crews fan who's been watching for the last few years maybe hasn't seen yet, and maybe someone that hasn't checked you guys out yet, what are they going to see from those guys? You know, the likes of Danis Jenkins, those two-way guys, Cole Swider, Alondas Williams. What do they bring to the table for you?
Yeah, so we've got a really cool physicality and spirit for the game that's, combined with talent can be a force. And, these guys, they're extremely good people first, human beings first. You mentioned Danis Jenkins, who's coming out of a Coach Rick Pitino program. So obviously discipline portion of things and kind of the grit portion of things is what he's about. And that's really what we want to get behind and try to push forward here as with the Crews and the Pistons, that grit mentality, that work mentality, which having him at the head of the snake is pretty good, a luxury to have, truly is. We've got Cole Swider, you mentioned as well. No substitute for a shooter like that. He's a class act kid, ultimate pro so far with how he goes about his work and behind the scenes, really understands the game and who he is. And so, another guy I'm really excited about, Alondas Williams, is somebody who's made a lot of noise in the league for a few years now, with his ability to pass the basketball, his ability to score the basketball, and then his just deceptive athleticism is second to none. I mean, he's a real player there. And Lamar Stevens is another guy who's seen NBA minutes, is really another true pro in how he goes about his business and everything, looking for an opportunity by springboarding himself in a variety of different areas. So it's really just a matter of trying to understand where all these guys are at this point in their careers, and what will actually help them individually take steps forward and getting to where they think they should be, where they would like to be, by way of the framework of the system and what we're trying to do in lockstep with JB and the Piston group.
I think that brings up a really interesting question because, in the G League, these are guys that in a lot of cases, they're trying to earn that NBA contract. They're trying to earn that significant payday for one of those overseas teams. How do you as a coach, you're trying to win basketball games right now, but you're also trying to help these guys get to that point where they get that NBA call-up, they get that contract overseas. Like, does that go hand in hand, or is it difficult to try to manage, hey, I know this guy is, trying to get to this specific place or trying to get that NBA shot. Does that get in the way of you trying to win and build a a continuity in your system as you coach that team? You know, at the beginning of the year, the roster can look very different towards the end of the year with how the G League works. How do you try to balance that?
The main thing with the word you said was winning, and in order to win, you have to play the game a certain way. You know, it's got to be played the right way. It's got to be played hard, and you've got to have the discipline and the details with it. And so, if you are trying to do those things, if we are really harping on certain things, they translate throughout, whether it's here or elsewhere, and they translate to winning. Like that's all we're doing is trying to get them to understand what being a pro and being a winner actually is, what that means and what that represents, and how they can add that value to any type of organization or program that they enter. And so you know, winning is difficult because of the turnover and all of the adjustments with so much movement going on. I think that you know, winning takes on a lot of different names depending on where you are and how they use the G League. Everybody's kind of different in the league. But for me personally, just helping these guys recognize really the 80% of who they are, of what they can bank on, what they trust, and what somebody knows they can expect from them consistently, you know, and kind of really hanging on that. And then the other 20-ish% happens on occasion. A lot of times you got to leave it alone. Sometimes it'll happen organically or whatever. Or sometimes you'll be thrown a bone, you know, due to your work, and you've earned the right to try some different things here or there. And so it truly is a balance, but the communication has got to be at an elite level, just so these guys with their own personal agendas can understand that it does take time. There is patience involved. There's a process involved, but the direct results that they want to see have to come by way of an accumulation of the smaller results first, you know, and to get to the big picture. And so far we have guys that they love receiving coaching. They've received some of the information so far. We have a lot of work to do, but it's cool, a cool group to work with.
Yeah, the group on paper looks like maybe the best Cruise team we've seen since I think the first year of the Cruise as a G League franchise. I mean, some of the names, Lamar Stevens has a deep history in the NBA. He's played for several NBA teams. He's had success at the NBA level. Some of these other guys that we've talked about have had success in the G League or are coming in off successful collegiate careers. I know you're joining us shortly after practice. You guys have been in training camp now for a little bit over a week. What's that training camp look like for you guys? What's the feeling right now as, you know, you're just days out of that first game of the season?
Yeah, these guys are ready to they're ready to compete against somebody else. You know, they beating each other up here. We had a pretty spirited practice a few minutes ago. They were getting after each other and everything. And, you know, competing is the biggest thing with this group. They compete, you know, once they get there, they help each other get there. And, you know, each one of these guys, they somehow organically just got connected, which, you know, I've been trying to figure out how I'm going to do that for so long, the last few weeks. But it just goes to show who they are. And in the front office, Max and his group upstairs, they brought in the right pieces according to the system. And so, you know, as long as they understand that together is part of our deal and that they are able to use each other and need each other's help in order to get to where they need to go, they got to show up with a plan, though. Like, this can't be random. You can't just come and hoop. That doesn't work. You've got to be intentional about your process. You've got to have a plan and a purpose for why you're doing things, and you've got to demand that the situation or the environment will help you in producing those type of results. And they've done that so far. The last couple of weeks have been awesome with these guys. Even I've had to pull them back a little bit at times. Just they're anxious, they're antsy, but I'm really looking forward to going to battle with these guys.
One of the great benefits of the G League is that back and forth that it has with the NBA franchise. And I think you look at a young team like the Pistons, and you look at some of the players on its roster, and you know, you start to see fans who are ready to maybe see someone like Bobby Clintman or Marcus Sasser or I don't know about this one anymore with how he's played for the Detroit Pistons to start the season, but someone like Ron Holland come down and really get that opportunity to be a showcased player, get those extended minutes that they're not able to get right away in the NBA. How do you try to manage it? I'm sure you and Trajan Langdon and JB Bickerstaff sort of have some plans laid out to maybe get one, two, three of those guys integrated with your system at some point. How do you try to balance that with the roster that you have right now, the guys that you have right now, and who are a part of your foundation already?
Just giving them what translates, like coming down and me putting them out there and allowing them to go rogue and all these, whatever situation to get 30, 40, 50 points. That's not helping them. And that's a disservice to them and where they are. I think the biggest issue or kind of misconception that happens is they think the game changes just because it's a different, the G League versus the other. And really, nothing changes. The game is the same. The way you play it is the same. The concepts are the same. And what you are supposed to be doing remains the same. You don't need to do any more. You just got to channel it to the certain areas that have been laid out in the diagram for you. Whether that's rebounding, be a better rebounder, if you're a better switch guy, if you're whatever the case may be. There's a lot of different things. Each person is different. But I think the biggest thing is being honest with them about what those things are and letting their teammates know that that is what is expected of them or what they're looking, what everybody's looking for them. So they know what's going on with everybody, including themselves, and so that's where the communication thing is everything. It's the only thing that'll give you a real chance, but it just helps those guys understand where exactly they are.
Now you have an interesting situation because you came to the Cruise last year, brought in by Monty Williams.
Mhm.
Obviously, he's no longer here. It's JB Bickerstaff and Trajan Langdon. I think a lot of times when you look at an NBA change in the front office and in the head coaching situation, they'll often bring in a bunch of their connections, the guys they've worked with, with the previous teams. But you kind of bucked the curve there and are still the coach of the Cruise. I mean, what does that vote of confidence mean for you to get that vote from Trajan, to get that vote from JB, to obviously stay and build on the success that you had last year here?
Extremely fortunate. There are thousands of coaches on their couch right now that, are flipping through ESPN and TNT and everything, just, really good coaches and teachers. And so I don't take that lightly at all. I have all the love in the world for Coach Monty Williams, I've been a part of his camp twice in New Orleans and here. And Troy Weaver is also part of that last year and helping me get this opportunity. And so really, really value both of them. And then coming in, JB and his crew have been awesome. Like that is really, I've known of JB indirectly just because of his father and everything he's done in the league. And his dad's a mentor of my father and all that kind of stuff. And so the indirect connection has just taken off. And I'm really excited to be representing him and what he's bringing to the city of Detroit and to the Pistons organization. He believes in pretty much everything that I'm about and what I believe in as well. And that also helps the situation and being able to take a brand new system and being able to teach a brand new system to all these guys who are looking for our help. And so from me, much love to Coach Mont, much love to Troy, and Trajan, Blackstone, JB, and all of his staff as well. This is going to be a fun year. I'm really excited about this. Pistons are playing a good brand of ball here early, and you can see his prints there with the physicality and how those guys compete. And so I'm really looking forward to getting started on Tuesday and just trying to be a model and set some sort of tone here for our group in the same way.
Yeah, you said it Tuesday. You guys get started against the Windy City Bulls. That's at home at Wayne State Fieldhouse, which, I've watched a lot of basketball in my life, youth, high school, NAIA level, lower level college, NBA. I think the Wayne State Fieldhouse is a really, really nice arena. And I think it's really great that you guys have that partnership with Wayne State. What are your impressions? I mean, I know you've probably only been there a handful of times. Oh no, you were here last year. What am I saying? But what have your impressions been of that arena? Because I think it just looks so spectacular. And as someone that's seen some of the games played there, it's just it's a nice place to be at.
It's is a great spot. I'm a big fan of Wayne State and just having that as home court. It's easy to get in and out of. I think it's a perfect size for what we are about. You know, the gyms that we went to last year throughout, I'd put it up there with all of them. I mean, I actually I don't know one that was better per se in general. Just especially when the days with the kids and everything, they come in, that place can get loud. You know, it holds noise well, screens and everything. So, you know, that's a place that for me, we got to protect. You know, home court is very, very important for the Cruise program. You know, that's what we're really going to emphasize here, trying to get off to a good start, especially at home. You know, the city of Detroit and the community coming out, there's a lot of players that are from this area that come back and play, and people show up. You know, it's really cool to see the community support itself like that when these guys are coming into town and trying to create identities for themselves as basketball players and pros. So really looking forward to getting back, really looking forward to all the fans and the people who emailed and reached out and contacted me. I'm much love to all of them as well. I don't get to say it enough, but I really appreciate the support and very fortunate to be part of it.
Last question here, Coach. It's been great having you on. Hopefully this is something we'll get to do again at some point throughout the season as you guys are having much success. But the season starts Tuesday. What does that identity for the Cruise look like? What are you hoping to showcase right away, right at the start of the season?
We're there to outwork everybody. You know, this is a grit first mentality. This is a together type team. We're trying to get up and down the floor with the ball movement first. We've got to have smart body movement as well, getting in and out of actions, giving each other space, creating space. But our main thing is applying pressure on both ends. We've got to get up and have a presence on defense first. That is a force. And then we've got to make sure that we are attacking at all times on the other end and putting pressure on the defense so that we can dictate and control the pace and the situation of the game. So, you know, we have the team, we have the talent, we got the spirit for sure. It's a cool time to be around Pistons and Cruise basketball. So really looking forward to getting started.
Well, Coach, we greatly appreciate you joining the show here today. Looking forward to coming out to see the Cruise this season and wishing you all the success in the world as things get started for you.
Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks so much, Coach.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was our conversation with Coach Jamelle McMillan of the Motor City Cruise. So grateful to him for giving us some time after one of their final days of practice of training camp as that preseason wraps up for them. Again, they get started on Tuesday at Wayne State Fieldhouse against the Windy City Bulls. Again, thanks so much to Coach McMillan, and we look forward to checking in on the Cruise throughout the season here at Palace of Pistons. Before you go, make sure to hit the like button, make sure to hit the subscribe button, wherever you're watching or listening from. Please feel free to leave us that 5-star review as well. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Let us know what you thought of Coach McMillan and the interview in the comments. And thanks so much for tuning in to another edition of the Palace of Pistons podcast, brought to you by Believe.